Good evening, I'm Florence John Duo and welcome to Olsem Wanem. This week we highlight disaster preparedness. Now, disaster preparedness refers to the measures taken to prepare for and reduce the effects of disasters. That is, to predict and, where possible, prevent disasters, mitigate their impact on vulnerable populations, and respond to and effectively cope with their consequences. Planning is vital when it comes to disaster preparedness. All family members and even the whole community must know what to do in an event of a disaster or emergency. The International Organization for Migration, or IOM, carried out a week-long training of trainers course in Mount Hagen to teach vocal people in the Highlands region to prepare their communities for disasters that might occur. There were representatives from Simbu, Western Highlands, Jiwaka and Enga provinces. The participants of the course include ward councillors, community development officers, church pastors and community leaders.
Through the support from the USAID, we have a disaster risk reduction program building community resilience to most communities that are affected by disasters in PNG. So we have actually decided to expand the program to the Highlands region, to communities that have been affected by drought, as a way to build their resilience through that program. So we've been training what we call TOT facilitators and also government officials, and which also include ward councillors and some community key focal point person. The idea is to increase their knowledge of understanding disaster risk and how best they can minimize risk in their communities, given that they are the first responders of the disaster.
This training has equipped them to plan risk management ways when a disaster strikes, in collaboration with their fellow community members.
So if the community are the first responders of any disaster, they have to actually know how best they can prepare themselves in terms of response. They should know how best they can prepare themselves in terms of relief items that could be required in case for the future. So the idea is more like a community to analyze their vulnerability context, analyze the hazards, how they affected them, and how they can strengthen to reduce their vulnerability by addressing the root causes of their vulnerability and make sure that unsafe locations are safe for them, and then they can sustain their community in terms of their development.
This training through me I'm through this training was planned is something where me play enough so me play gato so me play no min sawe. So me play kisim na me I'm this training me back sing out to more leader of the community, all sets leaders. Pakau na me baga training lo here where but this sawe me kisim and bambla me can talk more about it sawe na bagolo community na go out Olsem. So by sawe longan.
Pastor David emphasized that the training has enlightened them to realize that they have the materials to help them prepare themselves, but they did not have the knowledge required to prepare themselves.
Like some through this development and implementing was a small government on this development coming to so long school like some was me play yet must develop me play yet so I'm one play thinking me kissing na me I must be line all community by all yet can say all by staff because this development is stable me play yet I'm not plan big play thinking me kissing and disaster me play work talk disaster na me like some one good play me kissing one good play along this training and disaster me play nature come up to so man me play yet come up disaster because thinking me play no using good thinking or some bagara become up also by me play staff also Wanem and display Mibla inaplo using thinking na stop to sol. Mibla no been using thinking. Also people something long life. Mibla stu papo gini. You may got thinking long kissing free and out or kissing nothing long old man. You miss around nothing na. Display maybe sakam. Mibla sa kissing time lo display. So now lo training me kissing mo sa mibla. It must make him sample away by mibla can stop right long time. Bagrabi come up. Also lo ye ino got narla sam to sol. Transition yes, I miss our victim mibla. Some time ISIS account to Solem no Thomas. So this play mibla by talk more long this play, all by stop time transition come up.
The participants expressed that with the training they've undergone, they are eager to teach what they've learned to the rest of their communities.
What me ba working and me all training me 1 week as a trainer of trainers. But me go out na mix me select them all ward all council wards all bakamin na me training man na Mary one time. Na explain him all me inside the course me line me gender balance too so gender I'm start inside where man Mary can work for man can work for Mary. Na Jiwaka me come on top respecting this la gender equality. I'm start fit through in one time Jiwaka community now. So I'm not one problem because talk all baga respect na all ba RM talk lo na kam na by me training all and then all lo one council board yet all community yet but can all go na go practicing this law plans inside lo one ward lo yet.
Preparing for a disaster helps. For instance, the people will know the type of food crops to plant during dry seasons, likewise for rainy seasons.
Last time drought in been come up, miblo been prepared. Na miblo no sawana kaige esa kaukau ya miblo suda abrusim emi dry all get along time to drought na miblo sud plan all kaige way me resistant lo dryness like tabiok no lisla na miblo no prepare so plan all get a line livestock no something emi been bagarap lo this time. So I'm good la lo prepare na working this la all planning la abrusim come up one la community me resilience law all disaster I come up inside law one community bla so I'm a good plan la come up na line him this la all planning and then me bla abrusim this law biru I come.
This evidently shows that people are not prepared for disasters and are not aware of what to do. It is vital that the people know and be prepared to help themselves and not wait for help from the government or other relevant authorities in times of disasters. You're watching Olsem Wanem. Jiwaka province is one highlands province that was severely affected by the drought last year. And in January this year, some parts of the province were affected by the flood that swept away their food gardens and destroyed their homes.
Drought sempre item joga lo this time me win more get an arab drought me been a drought of dry season or flood me been experiencing and me come slow in or come quick time and me come slow and dry all get a cow no get something blo me bla all kai me bla plan so as you go one la joga market lo means of bands look one la green leaf and stable market nam all get a line thing me bla right so na me bla talk assistant lo government agency or the go you bla wait but I'm like people need him this reliable, what I'm on time. Not supposed to delay in time and month, but I is people like some people are bagarap this time. Olsem na bien maybe I'm going to our this IOM International Organization for Migration and we come inside step in this time and this time I'll be come time after the drought that's all. Maybe like some people are bagarap so I'm coming.
The Jiwaka participants of the Training of Trainers course, facilitated by the International Organization for Migration, or IOM, said with the experiences they have of disasters in their province, the knowledge they have acquired from the training will significantly benefit them in terms of their preparedness for future disasters.
Drought in Jiwaka, by Blasan strong because we line him all sample wheel or receive wara or one again kaikai by me planning lo time blood drought. Na block planning na kisimal wara underneath lo ground we have facilitator me trainer talk me because them to wara say wara through em stab underneath some food underneath lo leg you mean on sa sabe. But got source lo rouse him tasol but me wish na ask him that any line can help me lock some wara underneath lo ground because I'm valley na plant have him dry.
Being in an area that is prone to long dry seasons, having access to seedlings of drought-tolerant crops will be a bonus for the people. Now with the seedlings at hand, the people are optimistic that they will be able to cope and have food to sustain them whenever a drought strikes in the future.
Ayo mi giving penis display kai and by bla usati kisimlan growing na genem yi harvesting by bla surkim chits plan go gona all community gen all molgata lookoutim oligat by all kisim na harvesting blong time nungu digam now by all staff awesome so this plan by bla giving more school talk long all usati kisim all plan mlan come up by all serim na bla working awesome by display population 3 to 4,000 by bla staff display no time back come by bla staff all right.
Me talk number one take you blue me along IOM. IOM one black NGO organization. But come inside community blue me area blue me all the inside islands regional governments but all come inside long area blue me long Nurugul especially Nurugul. Milling was IOM come inside na working awareness long something disaster by take place behind now na tomorrow. Can you say IOM come inside na me now online blue me also IOM come inside na provide me seedlings long me by ready long. Disaster by come inside behind. Me be ready na stop. This la tasulem IOM come inside. Me ulangin mo line blumi. All aram this la now all ammas all some seedlings finish. Okay, all go one half area blow. Now look all come up. All come up little garden long. All by 7 tomorrow IOM come awareness long. Me be stop inside this la. Me be behind most blow IOM na. Me be ammas IOM na. Me be go bas lo make him now.
Though some food crops may be new to the people, such as rice farming, the people of Nondgul in Jiwaka are determined to give it a try and make it work.
I am bringing corn, seedling, all cabbage, seedlings, tapioca, rice. Now you must have inside on them. I'm going to kind of some sugar. Now we will must through. First time we will along plant rice. I will come inside. We will must.
After the break, we visit the seed multiplication site in Kandep district of Enga province that will benefit the people from Kandep Rural and Wage Rural LLGs. Welcome back to Olsem Wanem. Another important aspect of disaster preparedness is planting drought-tolerant crops. The International Organization for Migration, or IOM, with support from the European Union, are working in close partnership with the Kandep district on a seed multiplication project that will benefit over 73,000 people in Kandep. The Highlands region suffered the consequences of the long dry season in 2015, resulting in food crops dying and also food crops destroyed by frost, leaving them without food.
What we have realized that is the Kandep area has got good prime land, but the issue was the crops that they were planting were not tolerant to the drought or to frost. Because what was happening is the seed that people were using was almost like 10 years old. So in terms of production, agriculture production, that seed was not producing a lot. So the idea of giving them new quality seed that is just coming from the research station is actually to increase the level of production at household level, but minimizing the land that is actually under cultivation, but getting the ultimate of food security that is required.
The people of Kandep have received seedlings from the International Organization for Migration, or IOM, and an approximate 3 hectares of land at Kandep Station had been utilized for seed multiplication.
First load of seedlings come some 2 weeks ago. Now we play putting on the ground. We play trying wait how I'm come up. When come up by me play looks away, suppose him come up good now. Okay, by me play extending this the program. Now planning more by start giving go out.
The two rural LLGs, which are Kandep Rural and Wage Rural, comprising of over 73,000 people, will receive these drought-tolerant crop seedlings. The seedlings will be distributed according to families.
Seed multiplication, we play one them DPA over here. Long kisim all the seedlings. They come along IOM. All the supply cocoa beans, potato, corn, bean, all kind of simple. All supply na. Me play growing here.
Kandep District Administrator Besawa said the next step in plan is to carry out the extension program of seed multiplication to make sure that all families in Kandep and Wage Rural LLGs benefit from this.
Well, we play look like extension program now. DPI by look like extension program. Some just like come up with now. So here multiplication. By me play extend him. Make him go come a big player. And then we play Salim all officers, we play one family now, all by Kerma the extension program. Supply what students go along. All one family place.
The other important aspect of the seed distribution was to encourage the people to improve their nutritional value by providing to them the different food crops that they will plant and then add to their daily meals.
The other aspect was to look at the nutritional value of the food that the communities require in Kandep area, given that most of the people rely only on sweet potato. But here we're actually trying to look at how do we diversify agriculture production through providing several kinds of food crops that they can plant that are suitable for their region.
Welcome back. In this final segment, we place the spotlight on tribal fighting. Tribal fighting only results in destruction of properties and the loss of lives. One significant example of property destruction is the wheat mill in Murip, Kandep district. The International Organization for Migration, or IOM, discovered Murip community in Kandep district during its drought response mission. The community was engaged in tribal fighting. The IOM saw the need to develop a program to engage the community in conflict management and peace building.
The idea was for finding lasting solution for conflict that are actually affecting most of these communities, because we realize that for development to be sustainable, these communities actually need to have peace. For people to have a sustainable food security at community level, these people actually need peace. So if we are going to do any intervention in these communities in terms of drought response or DRR, we are not going to achieve any result unless we address the issues of conflict that have been actually retarding their development in their community. So the approach that we are working now is for the community to identify solutions themselves. But for them to identify the solution, they need actually to find out why they were involved in those tribal fights in the first place.
Emlo tribal fight lo mi play okay, this time mi play fight cross lo. Emnya afn crown ya. Okay, Maria lo mi but narla brother like working install up now mi play work lo cross fight go. Em been taking mama's play 3 years something. Mi play been putting go lo court now em. Narla brother em let's lo putting go lo court na. Em deny now em this la trouble em been come up na. Okay, the house lo upset pa ya. Okay, lo apa ya em a variable me em a variable em down side. Okay, mi play brother ta sol mi play cross fight lo grand ya. Mi play no cross fight lo one la sentinel mi play fight cross lo grand.
Prior to this tribal fighting, a previous fight in the area resulted in the burning down of a wheat mill project at Murip, which evidences of that can be seen today.
Tol purim Carlo up now or come down now. All been cooking this project. Car and pile and staff. House upset them. 2 blouse pile 3 blouse upset. 1 blouse house boy old sunny is asleep low and 1 blouse car all cooking 2 blouse car low upset. Okay, this la 2 all cooking but we put him on fire and stuff. Okay, car all cooking low and generally I'm stuff. Okay, all even put him Wanem wheat factory all build him low and rice factory upset him wheat. So empire.
When the wheat mill was burnt, the people who benefited in terms of employment and cash revenue from the mill lost their jobs and a way to generate income for their families.
I'm been work mi plaza planning wheat na mi plaza kisi money. Okay, mi plaza sample mi plaza running piece in. Okay, time piece in like again wheat time mi plaza running okay. 2 mi plaza planning with arelo osem karen blo mi plan about karen kam lo ya kisi mani lo ya mi plaza kisi melpi mosem sampla blo mi plaza work lo ya na mi plaza kisi melpi mosem.
All this has come about because of the lack of understanding in other ways of solving conflicts apart from fighting. It is time to put a stop to the traditional trend of conflict-related tribal fighting and come up with proper peace-building programs. The IOM had conducted training for conflict mitigation and an analysis had been made on the conflict at Murip.
And after when we did our situation and our conflict analysis, now we are working on the actual development for peace planning process, where the communities can identify development priorities that can actually build engagement among themselves so that they can actually have sustainable peace in their community. So the approach is actually for communities to find solutions for their local conflict problems and come up with actually yardsticks that they can say this what we can be measured in terms of achievement to sustain our peace for the future generation of our communities.
The Murip people are thrilled to try this out with help from the IOM.
Yeah, we plan on expecting Olsem IOM member come because this is a very trouble place now. Okay, all album come and bankolo narulab all good like clean when I'm place stop lo end but IOM talk lo come lo yana I'm like helping me plan now bel lo me I'm much low Olsem can service Olsem people and me place stop good man bakarap lo en IOM like come na fix him again now me I'm much lo this la.
That's all for this week. If you have any comments or stories you would like to share, please send us an email via the address on your screen or visit our Olsem Wanem Facebook page. Until next time, I'm Florence John Duo, and on behalf of the Olsem Wanem team, thank you for watching and have a pleasant evening.